my full name is Nicole Medina. I am a Latina American and I am very proud. I'm based here in Philly. I love art history. I try not to be a total nerd about it, but I do love it. I am a huge fan of horror movies. We are finally in that month where I can say that freely. But also, I do love the good and the bad, for the better or the worse. I am a horror fan. But most of all, the most important part of myself, I think, is that I absolutely love fun pattern and bold color. And that is a theme you'll see throughout all of my illustrations. I love illustration, so I can talk about it forever. I just hope I narrowed it down to a couple things that would be helpful to you, but also show my interest in book design in general as an illustrator. So I'll get started. Editorial were my first like string of jobs that I got back to back. But I did a lot of cold emailing. If you're not familiar with cold emailing, it's like cold calling, but with emailing. And it just means that the person doesn't know me. I'm just shooting my shot out there, sending these examples I'm showing you here of what I could possibly help them with or get hired to do. So 4 out of 10 times it has worked out for me. Now, I know that seems like a very low statistic, but the few jobs that I have gotten from cold emailing, one got me a new piece of my portfolio that I could add with a client name attached to it. And three, of course, like new clients found me because of either that same art director would recommend me or because that art director might follow that specific magazine, that specific blog, that specific company. So again, back to the portfolio website, my like big tip is like keep it simple and keep it easy to use. You can have, I'm going to say a couple things that feel like they're going to contradict, but you can have as many pieces as you want, but just make sure it's organized in a way where it's easy for someone to like look through it. So if you're starting like brand new, don't know where to begin, I'd say have at least 5 to 6 pieces right away, just so you can start promoting yourself and then still have something for people to look at. And there's a variety of 5 different things. When it comes to social media, I really see it as my second portfolio. I mainly stick to Instagram, myself and I do have a TikTok, but the way I kind of separate it because I do not feel like I'm very much of a content creator. Um Instagram is my second portfolio, but with a little more personality is how I like to call it. But my TikTok is all of my sketchbook work. So it's more of like my process. So that's how I make that exciting for me. And I feel like I'm still promoting myself in the right way. So dealing with clients. They're people too. Please remember that they are people too. I think sometimes we can forget that, especially if we're only used to see like talking to them through email and not even, video chatting with them. But they are people too. So just remember to communicate. Uh, Deadlines are important. But if something is very urgent, I don't think I've ever run into any art director who was so, evil that they're like, okay, we understand. Like, yeah, it's a tight deadline, but we can figure something out. So, you really don't want to. You really want to focus on creating that relationship with that person because, again, you want to get hired again, and you also just want to make sure you continue that project on a good note. So contracts feel very scary. I do feel like you should never work without one as a freelancer. Obviously, payment is very important. Make sure that exactly the amount you have discussed in email is the correct amount in the template. So many times have I been given a contract where the wrong payment is put because sometimes they just copy and paste and I get it, but you have to be the one on your end to make sure that you're getting paid for the right amount, right? Hobbies are so important. Please surround yourself in your favorite things, but be open to exploring others. On the bottom, I really got into ceramics this year, and I was in a really big like art struggle rut kind of, and I don't know, that just really took me out of it, using my hands and not just working 2D but working 3D and taking all those patterns to something new. It was just a way to really express myself differently.
How long did it take you after cold emailing before you were able to get your first freelance job? And did you find that you had to adjust your portfolio a few times before getting them?
I'd say it wasn't instant. I can't remember how long it took exactly, but once I got my first like one or two jobs under which I was working a part-time job. I don't think I ever mentioned that. I was working a part-time job during and I was able to work part-time instead of full-time while I was still building a portfolio, newly graduated. And it took about a year fully, like fully a year and a half before I got jobs like consistently. When I mean consistently, I mean like every week.
Yeah.
Like editorial again, because it is so quick.
Yeah.
Um, and but my first job after cold emailing, it did take like a I'm gonna say 3 months if I'm remembering correctly. Sometimes they respond like 2 weeks later, but then they don't have a job for you until a lot after.